Hello. So sorry we're late. It's 3 minutes past 7 p.m. My name is Solomon Wangwe, founder, CEO of Goshen Acquisitions and its wholly owned subsidiary, Grand Acres, the most transparent and therefore trustworthy land sellers in Kenya. Thank you so much for making time to join us for today's live question and answer session. And again, apologies for starting a bit late. Ruth Latimoy, I see you. Thank you for joining us. All of you on TikTok, there are so many. Thank you for making time to join us, guys. And I look forward to diving right into this Q&A session today. So, if we may, please send your questions in, and we shall get started. Are we okay, guys? I have a whole team with me here in the background. That's why the camera is shaking a bit, trying to position cameras. So don't be too bothered by that. I hope you're hearing us okay. If you could, please just let us know where you're tuning in from, what town or city and country you might be joining us from. I see you, Suleiman Abdi. Thank you for joining. Peach and Dales, Karibu. All right. Hey, Washu. What you saying, Joji? Talk about screen. Yeah. Good to see you, Washu, as always. Wow, so many of you. Thank you so much for making time to join us. So let's get started. We don't have too much time. It's now 7:05 p.m. Thursday, the 31st of August, 2003. That means we have 55 minutes for this session. So let's get started. Margaret Mbai, I see you from Karen Brooks and the Pink. Wavy. You're watching us from YouTube. Thank you for making time. DMR, thank you. Welcome. It's your first time here. Thank you for making time. You're joining us from YouTube, I can see. And in case I'm a stranger to you, DMR, I am Solomon Wangwe of Grand Acres, Goshen Acquisitions, the best and most trustworthy, most transparent land sellers in our great Republic of Kenya. So looking forward to taking or fielding any questions you might have about land buying and land ownership, safe land buying and safe land ownership in Kenya. Okay, we've been doing this for some time, 12 years almost, so we know a thing or two about how to go about it. We've made a few mistakes along the way. By God's grace, we've done a lot of things right, and we're happy to share our experiences with you. That's the context in which we're having this question and answer session. And where I am unable to answer, I will tell you. Okay? Ismail Amir from TikTok, I see you. Thank you for tuning in from Facebook. Your question is, sir, why is it so hard to sell property in Old Town Kibokoni, Mombasa? Wow, that's an interesting question, Ismail. We've never transacted before or interacted with any property dealings in Old Town Kibokoni, Mombasa. So, frankly speaking, we don't qualify to even answer that question. Unfortunately, Ismail, I'm sorry. I wouldn't know why it would be hard to sell property in Old Town Kibokoni, Mombasa. But it's something I'm now curiously going to look into. We are scouting for properties at the coast, but our main focus has been on beach frontage only. Okay, so for that reason, we haven't interacted with anything in the Old Town Mombasa. But thank you for your question, Ismail. I look forward to finding out why, and should I be able to do so, make sure that we share that information. Right? That's interesting. Ocean from TikTok, thank you for tuning in. Kwale County worth investing? Absolutely. Our whole country is worth investing in. Ocean from TikTok, as always, you just need to make sure that your investment is suitable for your goal. Why are you investing in that county? What's the purpose for your land ownership there? I mean, if you can answer that question as clearly as possible, you should be okay. I love Kwale County because that's where Diani is, and as you know, Diani is home to Galu Beach, Nondo. That whole ocean front there has won several awards over many years for being the best or one of the best beaches on the African continent. Take time, I pause so that you can consider that. The best ocean front or beach on the African continent. This is in context, because we have Cape Town, which is a world famous ocean front, stunning, gorgeous, with mountains in the backdrop, the Table Mountains specifically. Our neighbors, Tanzania, have stunning beaches, amazing. Zanzibar, Pemba. You would not believe how beautiful those beaches are, and they are longer than ours. They have a longer coastline. Same with Somalia. Not famous for many positive things, unfortunately, because the country has suffered a long period of, unsettlement and wars and terrorists being branded as terrorists, which, as factual as some incidents might be, is not true of the whole country, or certainly not true of all its people or all her people. Somalia is a stunningly beautiful country. Their beaches make the rest of Africa look like a trash heap, to be honest. So, in the context of that, Diani is popular. It's why we're looking for land out there. So, if you have beach frontage in Diani, please reach out to us. We're interested in buying because we want to do something special there for our customers. So, reach out to us. But that's the reason I'm very bullish and positive about Kwale. Also, the non-beach fronting land is extremely fertile in Kwale, beautiful for farming, excellent, great weather, great climate. Only thing with Kwale is you have to be very specific with your due diligence. Ownership documents tend to be very messy, even historically. So take your time, do it right. But that's a long answer to your question, Ocean, from TikTok. Kwale County, absolutely 100% worth investing. Kilo Romeo 92 from TikTok. Thank you for watching us from Facebook. Your question is, what's the most affordable piece of land you sell? Most affordable. That's a great question, Kilo Romeo, because we don't sell cheap land. So I love your wording there, affordable. Thank you for being specific with your wording. So the most affordable land that we currently sell, I would say, would be in Imbuko 5. I think we now have 1 or 2 1-acre parcels remaining. These are 1-acre parcels. We have pre-sold most of Imbuko 5. Did I say 2 or 5? Imbuko 5. Yeah, Imbuko 5. 2 parcels remaining at the most, probably just 1. 1 acre will be zoned residential for eco-villa purposes because of its proximity to the Amboseli ecosystem, such and such. We are selling those currently. You can see, if you're watching on Facebook, you should see a video playing to my side. We're selling these 1-acre parcels, an entire 1-acre block, for only 1.19 million shillings. Amazingly affordable price for an entire acre of land. Why? Because most people typically pay between 300,000 and 500,000 shillings for a 50 by 100, which is an eighth of an acre. So if you take that into context, you're getting amazing value for an entire acre of land, sold directly by the most transparent and most trustworthy land sellers in Kenya. Amazing value. That's our most affordable piece, sir. So if you're interested, please reach out. Our WhatsApp number should be on the screen. In case it's not on the platform you're watching, the number is 0700010001. Again, that's 0700010001. We'll be happy to engage further with you. So do let us know. And you can also visit our website, www.grandacres.co.kd, excuse me. And you'll get a list of our inventory. My throat is a bit dry. Recovering from a cold or a flu, forgive me for that. Next question, meditating, relaxing. Came across a video on TikTok, you saying title deed is most useless document. What documents should one look out for then, sir? Thank you for that question, meditating, relaxing. Yes, we did do a video. We actually, I think there's 2 or 3 videos entitled Why the Title Deed is the Most Useless Document in a Land Transaction. Okay, so just to complete your sentence there, because there was context to that comment, the most useless document in a land transaction. Okay. The reason we say that is because, as I've explained before, the title deed is a token for other documents on the back end, in the back office of the Ministry of Lands, and some of which are in the possession of the owner of the title deed. Okay, so beginning first and foremost with the green card, which is the mother of a title deed. It is what gives birth to a title deed. So it therefore means you cannot have a title deed in existence without a green card first, which therefore means that green card is the most important document in a land transaction. Hands down, bar none. Anyone tells you differently, with all due respect, they have no clue what they're talking about. Okay. Second, your maps, your cadastral maps, your formal, officially sanctioned and produced maps by the government of Kenya through the Department of Survey of the Ministry of Lands. Depending on the tenure of your land, it's either going to be a deed map or deed plan versus a registry index map and a mutation form. Those documents, along with a green card, are way more important than the title deed. You cannot have a title deed that's worth its weight in paper unless it's accompanied by those other documents first. So it's in that context that I spoke about the title deed being the most useless document in a land transaction, because all the other documents are what give the title deed meaning or value or sanctity or believability, trustability, transactionability, all that stuff, right? So I hope I've answered your question. Those are the documents that you should look out for when you're purchasing property. Don't just go off of face value when marketers say clean title ready, title deed available, ready transferable title available. Means nothing if the green card is not in place and the details on the green card match the details on the title. Means nothing if you don't have a duly updated registry index map clearly illustrating your parcel as described on the title deed, and same with the other map, mutation form, deed map, deed plan, and so on. Okay, so make sure that you pay attention to those documents, because even when you do a search on a property, because you have to do one ideally as part of your due diligence before you exchange money or do sale agreements or tie yourself up in a land transaction, the lands registry will actually go back to the file, look at the green card, and tell you in your search certificate or your search report what the green card says. Okay, so those are the documents to look out for. I'll repeat them very quickly one last time. Number one, most important, green card. Number two, most important, is your registry index map or its other associated map if you're dealing with leasehold properties. and a surveyor can define those for you and help you trace those. Number 3, your mutation form. Okay, and finally your title deed. There's other documents in between. For more details on those, please get yourself our free downloadable Grand Acres checklist. You'll find it on our website, www.grandacres.co.ke. Find the tab that says checklist and download it after entering the minor details it asks you for, especially your email address, and you will receive that. In that document, we detail the completion documents, which are critical to your clean completion of a land transaction. Without those documents, you cannot complete a land transaction legally or safely. And those will detail all the other documents that go along with those 3 that I have mentioned that are more important than your title deed. Thank you for that question, Meditating Relaxing. I think I have answered that appropriately. Stano from TikTok. Still got properties in Nanyuki? Yes, sir, we do. We have half-acre residential parcels of land in a beautiful, beautiful corner of Nanyuki. The most beautiful one, in fact, in my humble opinion, because we neighbor, I think it's the largest dam in Laikipia East. Right behind Joakali Trading Center is where we are located. You should see some video playing on the screen if you're watching on Facebook. 48 acres, beautiful compound, fully fenced with solar powered electrical fence, amazing design by Africa's #1 architectural firm, have been voted Africa's top farm, I think 3rd or 4th time in a row this year. Burkhartman and partners did our beautiful master plan for this residential compound. They're half acres each and will be fully serviced water, power, and waste water treatment, gatehouse for security. Call us if you're interested. There's very few remaining. I think there's maybe 20 or so plots remaining. We actually stopped selling for a while because we want to get on with our value addition besides the fencing that's been done, including boreholes and so on, before we relaunch our sales and sell the final 20 plots out of a total of 80. So 60 have already sold. And so if you're interested, check out our website, reach out to us through our WhatsApp number or any of our social media handles. The WhatsApp number, I'll repeat again, 07-0001-0001, and we'll be happy to engage you, Stano. Thank you for that question. Kati Frozen, hello to you. Thank you for watching us from YouTube. You're asking, hello, what happened to land in Kedong after scouting? Saw a recent video. Thank you for watching that video, first of all. That was a really cool land scouting that we were privileged to do. We were hosted by the landowner who generously accommodated us for a number of days, actually. We went back 2 or 3 times, and that video is playing somewhere in the background. And we haven't acquired the land or secured the site yet. That is why we haven't said anything. Hence why the video was part of the Great King of Scoutland, which is what we playfully call that group of content that have specifically to do with our land scouting activities, where hopefully you learn 1 or 2 things about what to look out for when you're considering a site for purchase or investment. So we're still looking. That's why we haven't said anything. Kati Frozen. So stay tuned. We look forward to having something available out there. Michael Nyamboke from IG. Thank you for watching, Michael.
Michelle.
Oh, Michelle. My apologies. Oh my God. Michelle, not Michael. Thank you for watching, Michelle. Thank you for your comment. Please forgive. Your question is, kindly talk about land rent and land rates. Who pays for the same during purchase of land? Okay, I'll start with defining what either of those is. Land rent is what you pay in annual taxes to the government, the national government of Kenya. Okay, national government. Every year you pay land rent, and land rent is paid only on leasehold properties, not freehold. Okay, freehold is called freehold precisely for that reason. You have a freehold, you don't pay any leasing fees like land rent. Okay, so land rent is paid to the national government. Land rates, on the other hand, are paid to the county government through their specified KRA accounts or county accounts. And those are also paid annually. And those can be levied even on freehold land. We have experienced that even though we have freehold land, while we do not pay land rent to the national government, the county will levy county land rates. Okay, so that's what each of those two. Who pays for those during the purchase of the land? Typically, the normal structure is that you require the seller to make all payments due fully and provide you a clearance certificate from the county as well as the national government before you can acquire the land. Because you will need those for the registrar before they effect the transfer of ownership from the seller to yourself. So one way or the other, you have to get clearance certificates. The only way to get the clearance certificates is to make sure that both rents, the land rent and the land rates, have been fully paid up to as at the date of, usually it's as at the end of the last year, okay? Because they're due by the end of each year. So if you're buying today, it's end of August, it's August 31st, you would have required clearance certificates for land rent and rates for 2022, as at the end of 2022, which means they would have been issued in 2023, obviously. Now, even though it is normal that the seller provides those first, meaning the seller pays, because they should pay for those taxes during the period they have owned it before you own it, sometimes it is negotiated that it can either be shared by both parties, or me as a buyer could say, I'm willing to pay those taxes for you. If I'm getting a good deal, it can be used as a bargaining chip, that I'll do this, that, or the other if you give me more time to purchase, if you give me an installment plan, if you do this, that, or the other, if you let me keep the fence, or if you let me have the old pickup that's on the site along with that, whatever. As a bargaining chip, I could say, I'm happy to cover your land rates and rents so that I can obtain the clearance certificates that the government officer at the Ministry of Lands will require to effect the transfer of ownership. Okay, so normal practice is that the seller pays them before transfer to you, but it is not uncommon for both parties to agree to either share the cost at whatever ratio you both agree, or for you to pay for the seller. I hope that answers your question, Michelle Nyamboke, and all success to you. Abdul Fatah, watching us on YouTube, thank you so much. I'll read your question. I think I speak for all when I ask what are the step-by-step processes of buying land in Kenya, and how different is it from the rest of Eastern Africa zone, including South Sudan? That's a great question, Abdul Fatah. For a step-by-step process, because I can't go through that over the next 33 minutes that we have on this call, we require much more time than that. Go to our website, www.grandacres.co.ke. Find the tab that says Grand Acres Checklist, which are the 9 steps to safe land buying in Kenya, and you will have a full description of what steps you are supposed to take to buy land safely in Kenya. Okay? And they start with number 1, defining your goal. Know why you're buying the land, because your reason for buying the land or owning the land will determine the rest of your journey in terms of what location to look for, so on and so forth. Okay? Very detailed, absolutely free. Why you don't have that checklist yet, I don't know, because it's been up there for a while. We've made noise about it. We even did an amazing campaign with our most favorite artist, Mkuru, Ras Mkuru, Abe Mutua. We did a beautiful video on the Grand Acres checklist as a summary, but the document is a lot more comprehensive. Download it, use it for yourself, share it with your friends and family who are looking to buy land safely in Kenya, and you will have blessed them tremendously. Okay? And the second part of your question was, let me have that up, guys. And how different is it from the rest? Okay. Just I know a lot of people imagine that land buying procedures are the same, at least by regions or zones in Africa. Very the opposite, completely. Each country in East Africa has its own constitution and sets of laws that determine what processes one must follow to purchase land and acquire land legally. Okay, so very different. It's like the difference between oranges, apples, bananas, and groundnuts. That's how different it is. It's not even fruit. Not all of East Africa is a fruit basket. Some of those I would even call protein, like meat. Throw some fish in there. Very different. So you have to be conversant with the legal structures, the constitutional requirements of the country you're dealing with. Now, we are specialists on Kenya, so I cannot speak too much on the other parts of Eastern Africa. I will tell you, for instance, in Tanzania, it's very different because most land is owned by the people of Tanzania through the government of Tanzania as a stakeholder. And as a foreigner, I cannot buy land in most parts of Tanzania. I can only lease land. Whereas in Kenya, foreigners can actually own and buy land. Even though they're called leasehold titles, you actually have the exact same ownership rights as freehold, absolute ownership rights as freehold. Only thing that lease certificates do is limit your period of absolute ownership to 99 years, which are still renewable if you renew on time. But these are some of the key nuances and differences between land ownership in Kenya versus the rest of East Africa. And to avoid any hurdles, pitfalls, landmines, pun intended, make sure you work with a licensed advocate of that particular country. No shortcuts. Okay? All the best to you, Abdul Fattah. Thank you for that question. Steve-O, my God, I know that name. Stephen Owiro, my college mate from back in the day, Savannah College of Art and Design. For those of you who are wondering, we went to the best art school on the planet. And yes, I do say. What's up, Steve? It's so good to see your message. Your question is, do you envision branching out to Western Kenya, specifically Kisumu and its environs? Yes, absolutely, Steve-O. We are actively scouting for land in Western Kenya. I have taken a look at some things in Kisumu, but we haven't quite found the right location. And there are also some concerns around provenance of ownership documents. Kisumu's land registry is famous for disorderliness and corruption and fraud. So we're taking our time, but we are actively looking. And I so look forward to sharing that news with you, Steve-O, because I know you're keen on investing on that side, which is where you hail from, your ancestral home. Same as mine, I'm from Webuye, Western Kenya, so we're actively looking, man. I promise you, my brother, I will let you know once we do find something. Thank you for tuning, man. It's good to see your name up on the screen. Matrud from TikTok. Thank you for watching. And your question reads as follows. Please talk about Nairobi satellite cities, even if it's 2 minutes, i.e. 2 minutes, i.e. Utawala, Rongai, Syokimau, etc. Matud, I would love to talk about these satellite towns. I wouldn't call them cities. But what exactly would you like me to talk about? If you're still watching, just follow up your question, please, so I can be specific. I can yap for a whole year straight if you let me about all these satellite towns. Um, but suffice it to say for now, unless you provide me more context, uh, they are growing quick. They are growing very fast. In fact, they are growing so fast that government authorities cannot keep up with infrastructure demand. Unfortunately, that means that these locations are a double-edged sword for you as an investor. They could work for you, they could also work against you. And what do I mean by that? Because of the fast or the very rapid growth rate, infrastructure is behind demand, which means people are building without proper planning that is enforced by the authorities, both county and national government. Kajiado County, in particular, is getting very organized very quickly. So, with regards to Rongai, that's a good place to look into because Kajiado County are getting the act together faster than everyone else. Syokimau obviously is part of Machakos County, which has its pluses and minuses. I like Syokimau more than I like Rongai because Syokimau is a little bit more orderly than Rongai. And I think I don't know if Utawala is in Nairobi or Machakos County. It's probably right there on the border with Embakasi, but growing very rapidly. So therefore, they're very attractive for speculative investment. For sure, space is becoming an issue in these satellite towns. So the sooner you control as much space as you can, the better, because it's going to be in demand very quickly, and you can make a good return on investment by selling to others later who want to build and use the land. There are also great areas for developing affordable housing because Nairobi Central has become very expensive. In fact, I've talked about how Nairobi it's become so expensive that we as native Kenyans have been priced out of our own capital city. Most of the big investors in Nairobi now are actually not Kenyans. The Ethiopians have taken Nairobi by storm. I've noted with, I shouldn't say with concern, but I've noted with appreciation. Canaan developers, for instance, have been building apartments left, right, and center all over Westlands, Kileleshwa, Lavington, high-end homes in Lavington. I mean, stunning developments, decent housing, good quality developments, apartments mostly. There's another company called Val Developers, who I believe are Egyptian company, taken Nairobi by storm. Um, the Chinese, obvious, no one knows, we don't need to talk about the Chinese. Their fingerprints are very loud and obvious. So, for that reason, Nairobi has become too expensive for most of native Kenyan investors. You're going to need 400 million shillings plus to purchase an acre of land in Nairobi if you can even find it. Okay? That means that the market for Nairobi is very specific, and most of it is foreign for good reason or obvious reason. So these satellite towns are going to be extremely valuable for those who have secured the place now. Today is the cheapest land will ever be in most parts of Kenya, so the sooner you can secure it, the better. Okay, Matrud, I hope I've answered your question in some way. But if you have more specific details, let me know. I'll be happy to address those. It's now 7:37. Osborne, I see your question. Good to hear from you, my brother, watching us on YouTube, I guess. Osborne is in Canada. Good to hear from you, my brother. Jumbo, grand family. Osborne, we the north. From Alberta, Red Deer, Alberta. At what stage of land buying transaction would you recommend or suggest to engage a surveyor? Awesome. Osborne, for me, it would depend. It would depend on how organized the seller is in the first place. So if you're buying from Grand Acres, for instance, there may not be much need for you to work with a surveyor because of how we package our product, which is land, plots of land for you. They will include mutation forms, registry index maps, so on. So at what stage you might want to send your surveyor will vary on how organized your land seller is. If you're dealing with a land seller who doesn't have mutation forms to show you or registry index maps, certified ones, okay, not just copies, there's no clear boundary demarcation on the site and that sort of thing, beacons are missing, this, that, or the other, there's no clean access, you want to do that immediately before you get too deep in your transaction. Now, obviously, most land sellers will prefer that you make a hard commitment, a serious commitment on the transaction before they share some of these sensitive documentation with you. So likely you will have to pay a reservation fee or purchase deposit. No more than 10% in that instance is my recommendation. Get your letter of offer signed. You can even put in your letter of offer that you would like to complete due diligence, including confirmation of boundaries and sizes by your appointed surveyor before you sign a sale agreement and proceed with your transaction. This is why it's so critical that you work with a licensed advocate who is competent on land matters, because they're the ones who can draft these documents and put in place all the checks and balances that protect your interests as a buyer, to allow you to check accuracy of acreage on the ground as stipulated by the title deed, the dimensions, the size, so on. Why is that important? If the size happens to be smaller than the title deed says, because you're paying a particular price based on the size per acre, then you have the opportunity to tell the seller, listen, according to the survey, ground survey report, your land is 20% smaller on the ground than the title deed says. Okay, do we need to fix that with the Department of Survey? Do mutation forms have to be fixed? Does the title deed details have to be fixed? There are allowable margins of error, but when they go beyond the margins of error, which a professional can advise you on, the documents must be corrected before you can transact any further. And that is critical because you don't want to get stuck in the transfer process because of an issue that existed your entrance into the transaction or a situation that predated your involvement. Does that make sense? So depending on how organized the seller is, you might want to engage a surveyor immediately. Pay a reservation fee so that they're not talking to other buyers in the meantime. Lock them in for a particular period of time, as long as you can manage to get the seller to agree. 30 days is not unreasonable. Get your surveyor on the ground immediately to confirm the boundaries, the size, the presence of beacons. Check the NOMO report to see if the land might be in an area that's been adversely mentioned in some of these critical reports, and then make a decision about how to proceed with the transaction, or maybe not, you want to pull out because you found that the issues are too messy. Okay, that's my advice. If you're working with companies like ours where a lot of the information is available readily, and we have clear boundary demarcations and so on and so forth, you may not need to do that immediately, although it is a good idea to do so. If you would like to, do all that stuff quickly and early, because if you wait until later, there's a chance you may have to interfere with the completion of your transaction, which may not be too desirable for the land seller like ourselves. Okay? I hope I've answered your question, my brother. Thank you for sending it in. And Greetings to everyone in Canada. Cut It Frozen, watching from YouTube. Thank you so much for your question, which is, what is the difference between a county surveyor and a QS? This is your second question. So a county surveyor is a surveyor, a professional surveyor employed by the Ministry of Lands Department of Survey, or a surveyor employed by the county government under the county's Ministry of Lands, if you will. Okay, they typically report to the county executive committee member for land, housing, physical planning, such and such. That term county surveyor is interchangeably used to mean both, either the one working for the county or the one working for the national government at the county office for the Ministry of Lands. Okay? That's just the reality on the ground. A QS is an acronym or initials for quantity surveyor. A quantity surveyor is a professional whose job it is to project construction costs for a builder before the construction begins. So when you get building designs completed for something, a house, a building, a bridge, even roads, those plans would be presented to a quantity surveyor, QS, quantity surveyor, who will then look at the designs and determine what quantities of concrete, sand, cement, ballast, steel, nails, roofing material, blah, 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 everything that's going to go into that construction. They will project for you the costs that you can expect to incur to fully build that project as designed. Okay, I hope I have answered your question. I don't know if you meant to ask about a QS, because that's a very different profession from a surveyor, but that's a difference between county surveyor and a quantity surveyor, which is what a QS is. Abdul Fattah, you have another question. When should we expect grand acres in the coast region? Very soon, sir. We are actively scouting out there. As I mentioned, we're hunting for everything we can on the beach, particularly in Diani or Watamu or Kilifi. Okay, so in case you have any good leads that you want us to look at, reach out to us. We'll give you what details we must have in order for us to make an efficient and informed decision about whether or not we should spend time trying to acquire it. But we're looking very aggressively. I am sure by God's grace, Abdul Fattah, we will be at the coast in no time. Thank you. That's an encouraging question. Digital Trends Kenya, good to see you watching us from YouTube. Your comment or question reads as follows. Mr. Solomon, hello. Seems and selling is focused in some areas in Kenya. Okay, there's a slight grammatical error there. Example, I rarely hear of land sold in Lodwar, Marsabit, Turkana areas. Any reason? Okay, cool. Yeah, in my experience, the primary reason is that you just happen to mention Lodwar, Marsabit, and Turkana. Those are three of the largest counties in Kenya. There's endless land out there, a lot of land, plenty of space. So as a commodity, if you want to look at the laws of economics, anytime you have an oversupply of anything, the prices tend to be low. And when prices are low, it means that there may not be a vibrant enough of a market for that commodity. And therefore, land selling entities, whether individuals or companies like ourselves, are not too motivated to look for opportunities there, because it's likely going to be difficult to find interested buyers in those areas, at least enough to make business sense. because it's an expensive undertaking to own land, buy land, process subdivision, develop it, add value, market, sell, so on and so forth. That's one. Number two, we actually look for land once in Isiolo, following our successful experience in Konza back in 2012, and we were unable to do anything there because we found most land at the time did not have private titles. Most land was communally owned, meaning it is trust land managed. If it did have a title, the title deed was for tens of thousands of acres at a time, in some cases hundreds of thousands of acres, managed by a council of elders for the benefit or on behalf of the native inhabitants of the land who lived in the land, worked on the land, and used the land. So it was impossible for us to buy anything. The process would have been too involving and extremely risky because it would involve, going through adjudication in some cases, going through convincing councils of the elders to hold meetings to allow the community to hive off a particular corner of their group ranch for us to buy, produce. It was just too much work, too messy, and therefore a lot of investors like ourselves have stayed away, particularly for those of us who are in the business or providing land ownership opportunities or selling land as a product. It's not very motivating. And so for that reason, you will not hear much about land being sold or being advertised in Lodo, Marsabit, Turkana, Isiolo, Tana River, any of those zones. That's my 2 cents. At least those are my reasons. If you have insights on why others may not be active in those areas, we're happy to hear from you as well. We could learn something as well. Thank you. Son of Sparta. Who comes up with these titles? Son of Sparta. Watching us on TikTok. Thank you for making time. How do foreigners structure ownership of land in Kenya? So all sorts of schemes have been hatched over time about how foreigners can own land in Kenya, but after the 2010 constitution was promulgated, it has become increasingly difficult for people to do so in any meaningful way. Okay, it's very clear and straightforward. If the land is not freehold, a foreigner can own. So that's to say, foreigners can only own leasehold land in Kenya. If it's freehold, they cannot own it. There is no and if so, but there's no ways to structure it so that they own it silently or in the back somewhere. There's just no way. So people will propose that from time to time, that you can create a trust and have someone manage the trust on behalf of the foreigner or hold the land in trust. At the end of the day, whoever is registered as the owner on that property can make decisions about that land without any reference to you as the owner if you're a foreigner. And strictly speaking, if a foreigner has any beneficial interest in a trust that owns freehold land, immediately that is an illegality. It's not supposed to be possible. That trust would in effect be disqualified from owning that land. So there is no wiggle room. Freehold land completely off limits for foreigners. Only Kenyan citizens can own freehold land. Foreign ownership is limited to leasehold land. Any foreigner from anywhere in the world can come into Kenya and buy land if it is leasehold. Pretty simple, son of Sparta, but thank you. That's a good question. Omai Mark 2 from TikTok. Thank you for watching Omai Mark 2. What's the standard unit of measurement as per current constitution? Hectares or acreage? Thank you for information, Solo. You're welcome, sir. So, standard unit of measurement. Now, I can't tell you if it's a constitutional mandate, what the standard unit should be, because Very often references are made in acres, but on the official government documents, the references are always in hectares. Okay? So it's safe to say that because the government documents are always in hectares, then that is a formal or official standard unit of measurement for land. Even though it's not uncommon for them to refer to acres as well. Okay, and just for clarity, how many acres make a hectare? Because a hectare is larger than an acre. It takes 2.4710385, something like that. You can Google. Most of us just use 2.5, we round it up, but specifically it's 2.47. 2.47 acres make a hectare. And that's how you compute the conversion. Obviously, land marketers like ourselves, and land sellers, even private land sellers, individual land sellers, will usually advertise in acres, but formal government records and documents will always reference hectares. Thank you for that question. Son of Sparta, farming land is leasehold. Farming land can be either leasehold or freehold, it depends. Most farmland in Kenya is a freehold, okay, most. But there are instances where farmland can be leasehold, particularly in zones that are owned by foreigners or ancestral foreigners or white settler farmers is the loose terminology we use in Kenya, which I find to be a bit racist, to be honest. I don't see the need to refer to ownership by color of skin. I mean, a farmer is a farmer. Whether they came and settled here or were born here, I think is immaterial in that sense. I mean, I understand there is context, obviously. This is typically made in reference to our colonial past, is where the term comes from, but I think we need to address that a little bit differently going forward, given the times we're in. It's not uncommon to find that these farmlands owned by foreign nationals or foreign ancestrals to be leasehold. So leasehold or freehold has to do with tenure of ownership. Farm, residential, commercial, industrial has to do with zoning. The two are separate. You can have freehold farmland, you can have leasehold farmland. You can have freehold residential, you can have leasehold residential, so on and so forth. I hope that's clear. So farmland can either be leasehold or freehold, and you will tell usually immediately from even the physical title document that it is represented by. Okay, we got 4 minutes left. Let's tackle one or two more. Margaret Mbai. Hello, Mrs. Mbai. Thank you for watching. Can foreigners whose status in Kenya is residency own land in Kenya? No, they have to be citizens. They can own land if it's leasehold. Like I said before, the only way a foreigner can own land in Kenya is if the land is leasehold, has leasehold tenure. Okay, this is cut and dry. It doesn't matter if they're residents or not. The only way they can own freehold land in Kenya is if they are citizens. Even if they might have been foreigners who converted citizenship or took on Kenyan citizenship, they were born elsewhere, they came to Kenya either by marriage, working, looking for opportunities, decided to settle here permanently. They have to be a citizen to own freehold land. Whether or not they are a resident or or a non-resident, I should say, their ownership would be restricted strictly to leasehold and not freehold. I hope that is clear. Thank you for that question, Mrs. Bai. Lamani's Haven, Ichina. Is that real? Lamani's Haven, Ichina. What does that mean? Man, you guys need to tell me how you come up with your handles. They're so interesting, creative, and unexpected, and very often difficult to make sense of them. But I digress. Your question reads, what is the advantage of owning freehold land? Can freehold land be converted from agricultural to residential or commercial? If yes, what's the cost, requirements? Okay, is there any advantage of owning freehold land? Yes, in the sense that you do not have to pay land rent to the national government every year. That's the main benefit of owning freehold land. Also, you have ownership for perpetuity. You have forever ownership. You have ownership until the earth does not exist. You and your successors. Okay, obviously, if you pass on, you move to heaven at some point, the land will be passed on to your heirs, your children, whoever you've appointed to be your successor, even if it's not your child, and they have absolute ownership for perpetuity. That's the advantage in owning freehold land. Now, can freehold land be converted from agricultural to residential or commercial? Yes. Freehold land can be converted from agricultural to residential, technically even to commercial, although the general practice, whenever you get approvals for change of use from the county authority, because under the new legal structures after the 2010 Constitution was promulgated, issues of land use and zoning are the sole preserve or prerogative of county authorities. The national government doesn't have any say, as they used to, on zoning within counties. The counties decide for themselves what the use has to be. So if you get authority from a county to change use from agricultural, and the title is freehold, from agricultural to residential, normally they would prefer that you change the tenure as well to leasehold. And there's rationale behind that. Obviously, if you're converting, in most cases, if you're converting agricultural freehold land to, say, residential, it's likely that you're creating multiple households out of what would have been a single household on agricultural land. I've seen agricultural lands with freehold title deeds that are thousands of acres with one family. One family owns 1,000, 5,000, 10,000. I've even seen titles for 20,000 acres belonging to a single family. That's freehold agricultural. Now, if they change use from agricultural to residential, in most instances, the only benefit for them doing that is because there's a commercial interest. They are creating smaller compounds, subdividing and creating multiple households to use the same space. In that instance, the government authorities have an interest or a stake in ensuring that they earn revenues from the use of that land, because you have densified it, you have created multiple users out of what was a single user before, especially if there's a commercial component there, especially if there's going to be need for infrastructure planning by the county, which costs money. They would prefer for you to change those titles to leasehold so that they do not remain freehold. But I have seen it happen. Our Acacia Cove compound, for instance, are freehold residential. We got approvals from the county to do the change of use from freehold agricultural to residential, and the residential titles are freehold. So yes, it is possible. Commercial and industrial, you'll have a harder time convincing them why you should retain the titles as freehold. especially in those instances, if you're doing commercial or industrial, anything that requires intense commercial engagement, it is actually better for you to have those converted to leases so that you open them up to foreign interests. Because remember, freehold cannot be owned by foreign nationals. So if you have a commercial angle to this change of use, it's better for you to enlarge your market by opening up the ownership or potential ownership to foreign nationals. People from foreign lands can come and buy, invest, put in money, settle, and so on. So there's rationale behind it. As always, work with licensed professionals who can guide you through the process as is required as you go through the journey to convert use. As always, licensed advocate, licensed surveyors or registered surveyors, assistants, licensed planners or registered planners. Those are the ones you typically engage in to change use, with the county, and it's a very specific procedure as stipulated by the Physical Land Use and Planning Act of 2019. There have been some revisions of certain policies as recently as 2021 within that act, but you cannot navigate all that on your own. So work with licensed professionals, be kind to yourself, do things right, do them right, and do them right because it is right. And you'll be well on your way to safe land ownership in Kenya. If you're interested in more details, download our free checklist to safe land ownership in Kenya, the 9 steps, on our website, www.grandacres.co.ke. And if you have any other pressing questions, send those through to our social media handles. I'll be happy to engage with you guys even after this session, because we have gone over time by 5 minutes, and because we respect time, and we respect time because time is money and money buys land. We say thank you so much for making time to join us on this conversation, this question and answer session, and we look forward to having this again on Tuesday. We have it live. You call in live. We don't do the comments. On Thursdays, we do the comments. So thank you so much. Love you guys, and wishing you all grand acres, literally. God bless.
Pretty boy Rasta live and direct. Shout out to all the loyal Wakurugenzi. With me is none other than the land connoisseur himself, Manati Bila Grady, Teddy Wamashake.